Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast, episode 353. Yes, folks, it's a palindrome. This is your guide to the geek side, and I'm one of your hosts, Todd Oxtra, joined by Charlie Chuckles Garden.
Pew, 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 pew! What's up, y'all? Good evening from sleety Michigan. Man, am I ever glad I've stayed inside today. Got the fireplace roaring, got all my chores done, and I am chilling with a glass of the finest Federation cheap Canadian whiskey. So I'm doing okay.
Very, very cool. And we are joined by a very special guest today, joining the Secret Friends Unite. That is Miss Shannan Paul. Mine, oh my, she is a personality in the Twin Cities. If you're from here, she's a wonderful person. I remember listening to My Talk 107.1. My son and I love those shows. And Miss Shannan came on. I'm like, who is this woman? She sounds awesome. And she's also a geek. So she's a speaker, comedian, auctioneer, social instigator, radio host on My Talk 107.1, and at BeOurGeek, and a regular on The Jason Show. Oh, my goodness. Miss Shannan, did I miss anything?
Nope, that's it, gentlemen. I mean, there's a lot of things. What else do I do? I'm a voice actor. I'm actually, just because the geek in me wants to do this, I'm really I'm recently have been auditioning for some animated series that hopefully take off. So I would love it. Like there's one that's a Minnesota-based animated series that I hopefully will get to talk about very, very soon. So I'm looking forward to that. So thank you guys for having me.
You got it. I do have a follow-up question. What does one call a social instigator? Oxford just dropped that.
You know what? You get to buy your own business cards. Did you know that?
Yep. I know because Todd and I have my own Secret Friends business cards. I have them for the Grand Petoskey, the SFI chapter. I've got one for a charity expo I work with my best friend in another town here in Michigan. So Vistaprint gets my money. Yeah, Vistaprint gets
and so
my
mine
money.
is actually So here's the thing: is that when I started using the term social instigators, because I truly enjoy talking to other human beings and being a catalyst to try and spark connections between those human beings. And so if you're in a room and you need somebody to be that billiard ball that'll start a conversation, that's me. So I love to start social instigation. So that is what I do. So, yeah.
I am. And Todd will always tell you, no matter what, I've always been an instigator. I always start shit. I'm trouble.
Right.
Todd knows that.
And it's funny because I worked for a couple of businesses in town, and they were like, well, shouldn't you call yourself a social catalyst instead? Because they wanted to soften. I was like, oh, no, I instigate.
Well, that's what I do. There's all edges. It's all edges. Yes. There's no soft. Right. It's all edges. No. It's all sharp, cut you edges. Out. It's Beskar. Watch out. It's the Darksaber. I was sorry. I was watching Mandalorian right before I got on, so I'm a little on the brain.
Well, and Charlie will tell you I'm just the kindest person in the world. I do not hold any grudges. I am just the sweetest person on the planet.
And the great news is Todd is very humble. He is very self-effacing. He never acts like he knows everything. It's great. It's really great.
Not at all. Not at all.
And my thing is that I also would consider myself a very kind person, and it's very important to me that when I do leave this planet, that people say she was a good person. She helped other people. That's why I work with a variety of nonprofits and really do, like when I got into auctioneering, it's because I'm a benefit auctioneer. And so cool. I'm not out there trying to like help people get a deal, but I am out there to work with organizations to try to help them maximize their fundraising. And so it just was another way that I could use my skill that I'm very comfortable. Hey, you have an audience full of people that came here to support your organization and get attention. And I will help them get attention in order to support this organization. So I'm totally fine with that whole thing. I don't mind asking people who have the money to give it to an organization that they came there to support. So I'm totally fine with that too.
What else are they going to buy? Mercedes and Teslas? Come on.
That is sales, and it cuts to the bone. But anyway, speaking of cutting to the bone, we got some bone cutting Russian action going on with this week's comic book cover. So this was Captain America. Issue 353, which is from May of 1989. Now, this is when I was core into the title. This was just posted. Todd, we've had a lot of Captain America covers kind of sneaking back in, and you probably do that for me, which I greatly appreciate. But this was after the classic, the Captain arc. You had Steve Rogers back in the classic red, white, and blue, but you had him squaring off against the Soviet. Are they the Supreme Soviets at this point?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, not the Soviet super soldier. So you had the Red Guardian, David Harbour. But then you get like a real hodgepodge of because they were trying to really mirror like what was going on with the Avengers at the time. So you had the Crimson Dynamo, which was the Iron Man ripoff. You had the dude who was supposed to look like the Vision, the chick who I don't know what the hell was going on. And then the one I focus on is their Thor ripoff, which is this big shirtless friggin' clod, to which he inspired me by saying, "In Soviet Union, shirt wears you."
All I can say is when an artist gets to basically draw a character and only make it a color, like the Crimson Dynamo, like it's like right. Literally that is them cheaping out. Like I didn't want to pay any money for inks or anything else, but yeah,
it's 2 colors. You got all red plus a white belt, star, and gloves. That's and the strap handles on the shield. That is lame and boring.
Or I always figured that they were on deadline by then, where by the time they got into the artist, they're like, finished. They're like 15 characters, ready, go. And they just got it done. And they're like, all right, all the boxes are checked. Cool. All right, nobody's going to, the check's going to cash. Cool. Yeah. That's what I always think on those days, too.
Well, I noticed who the artist was, and Charlie always knows that I'll make fun of this artist, Al Milgrom.
What's that?
It was right on the cover, right there, Al Milgrom. It's funny because
it is. I think Kerwin Dwyer was the inside artist at that time. But Al Milgrom, who you just are not fond of. Yeah, I know.
Well, no, he is like the guy you get if you can't get the guy you want, but he's reliable, and he'll do like 25 comics a month. The dude just.
I will quote to you a song I've heard on the oldest station a bit lately. Stephen Stills. If you can't be with the one you love, honey, love the one you're with.
Love the one you're with, right. And so and I never clown any artists that are legitimate artists like that.
Word.
Because I couldn't get that job. There's no
Hell
way.
no.
I can barely.
Hell no.
I can color in the lines if you give me the box of crayons and then put the numbers in and tell me which crayon to use. So I'm like, hey, look at that. Those people look like people. And that shirtless dude, I could tell it was a dude. I'm good. So I just leave it all.
My stick figures are world renowned. My stick figures, the line face, the 2 eyes, it's all there. All the anatomy is in its place.
Don't give it boobs. Forget about it.
No. Oh, sorry. That's very classy. Yes. Well, that is it for the intro of the show. But now it's time for us to get into the news and what we do. And we turn to our favorite gal pal, our senior news correspondent. So without further delay, Madam Webb, take it away.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's Rumors and News. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. Oh, my goodness, Miss Shannon. Madam Webb is about 152. So in this lens, she's always looking for gal pals to go out in the town and show her around. She's never been to the Twin Cities. So if you have any joints that might look for women that are in their 150s era, let me know. We can hook her up.
Me and all my Gen Xer friends, we can go tell her where to get the best wine spritzer is. So we'll help her hook her up. Yeah.
Do you have a lot of Centurion friends?
No, but that doesn't mean that. But that's for the best, because that means that she will be so special that we're like, hey, here we go. Now we're all ready. And there's a bunch of those vintagey bars that are out there, so they might feel very familiar to her. We'll do that, and then we'll make some Miss Minutes jokes, and we'll be good.
Oh, absolutely. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, the first story that was very cool popped up on, I think, Saturday night, which is so bizarre. It's out of the news trend, but this is big news for everybody. I don't know about all of you, but this is one of my favorite comic book movies of all time. Miles Morales, his take, love it. And we're getting the new movie coming October 2022. We got a preview where Gwen shows up. She sees Miles. He gets a little embarrassed. And then you see him, he goes off into the Spiderverse. He runs into Spider-Man 2099, voiced by Oscar Isaacs.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
I love that.
Big time.
We were excited. I mean, I was waiting for Spider-Man 2099 to come just because one of the video games, the mobile video games I play, Marvel Contest of Champions, was already talking about that and had introduced Spider-Man 2099 as a character. And so we were kind of like, okay, how is this going to work? And I am one of those people that truly still believes that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is the best Spider-Man incarnation that we have gotten as a film. Everything about it, I love everything about it. I think it was flawless. As a geek of color, I love that it was just so inherently diverse. I love that about it. And I mean, it just really reminded me why a person like me is a fan of Spider-Man, because Spider-Man, I think, especially for geeks that are part of the BIPOC community, that was one of the ones that you always got to be like, anybody could be Spider-Man. You know, everything else you kind of had to reimagine yourself as that character. But you're like, but Spider-Man, I really can see myself in that frame and why that made sense. So I loved that film. I loved the soundtrack. I'm so excited about the new one. And, you know, basically, Oscar Isaac, he shows up in stuff that I'm like, this is a mediocre film, but you're in it and I'm cool with it. I'm like, I'm here for that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, bring in the love it. I mean, the trailer itself, I didn't think had content that I thought was revolutionary, because really it's really a direct carryover from how the first film ended, because Miles is sitting there, he's listening to his jam, he's tuned out, and you hear Gwen's voice, and then this is just an extension of that scene that could very easily have been animated, you know, a couple of years ago when this happened.
Right.
But again, something that is a teaser is meant to really enhance. It's an expression that I remember reading for the first time in Stan Lee's introduction to a little pocket novel of the first 10 issues of the Amazing Spider-Man that I read when I was a kid. A little that said, "We hope this would whet your appetite. It would whet your appetite for more." And that's what this did. This made you say, "My God, 2099," which is, again, Todd and I grew up in the 90s when we were teenagers in the 90s. We were really jamming into the comics, or still, and everything was very extreme and everything was very flashy neon and whatever. And really, Spider-Man 2099 was absolutely that. It was packed with a lot of flash and a lot of glitz and glamour, and dare I say, it wasn't quite Rob Liefeld with the big pockets and the crazy spines and everything, but it was very 90s. And so this, certainly, that character of Spider-Man 2099, to me, I've been a Spider-Man reader since I was 10. I've read every issue of Amazing Spider-Man. I am a dyed-in-the-wool guy. This is absolutely fires me up. I mean, I'm seeing, Spider-Man No Way Home twice in 2 days. So I'm really fired up about that. I've got my tickets for Thursday. My wife has class. I'm going with a buddy of mine. And then I'm seeing it like noon on Friday with my wife, because she's, she will typically sometimes play hooky on a Friday to go to the movies with me. So, but I'm a big old Spider-Man guy. So this is pretty sweet.
And I agree that, I mean, for anyone who's I think they've done a good job. Like, you don't want to cause too much hype too soon, because then we end up in the same boat where everybody was sitting and staring at their PCs and their phones waiting for that Spider-Man No Way Home video trailer to hit, to the point that me and some of my friends were just like, oh my God, I'm going to see it anyway. Everybody go back and have your life. I don't care about the next trailer, because it was such a, is it going to drop? And then is this one? And when's the next one coming? Was that? And then I finally was like, do I care? I'm going to go, either way, even if the trailer was garbage, which, these days it's not. It's not going to be garbage. True. Like, there's no way they're going to create in these franchises a trailer that I'm going to go, that changed my mind, I'm not going. There's no way. And so I like that this is enough. I like that it played against something that I already loved, which was Into the Spider-Verse. And so that was enough to go, oh, you're making another one, because it didn't even occur to me, with all the hype we've had with No Way Home and all this other stuff, that one of the animated films was in the hopper as well. I just wasn't focused on that. So it was enough to make me go, oh, okay. I almost understand why they don't want to give you more, because it kind of made me less excited about No Way Home. Right. Because I'm like, I doubt I'm gonna like No Way Home as much as I'm gonna like this next one.
You're putting a little bit too much peanut with your chocolate butter. Whoa.
Yeah. And I did want to drop a couple other pieces here. So one thing I thought was really cool, the trailer definitely showed another animation style that we did not get before, which was very interesting, very much more chaotic, which could lean to something why it's more chaotic. And they also announced in the article, actually, Entertainment Weekly had some exclusive. Issa Rae is going to be be Spider-Woman, Jessica Drew. So that's cool. Didn't know that was going to happen.
I like
And
that.
they even talked about the fact that there are going to be, obviously this is said part 1. So this part 2 will be out sometime in 2023, and then we will sleep again in 2024.
No.
So I didn't even think about this being the part 1 part totally screwed me up, but that's like, okay, they're going all in on the Spider-Verse as a whole, which I love this. I love these characters. I remember seeing Spider-Man 2029 has been in some other video games and things like that. I think he even had his own cartoon series called Spider-Man Unlimited, which was a horrible cartoon, but it's out there if you want to check it. Might even be on Disney Plus. Don't know. But yeah, I love this. And this is a great reminder that this movie's coming out because a lot of people, like I said, off your radar. There's been nothing out there. We knew they were making it because the first one was so cool. And by the way, if you own the Spider-Man game from 2018, there was a mode where you can do the Enter the Spider-Verse animation style and then get the suit. And it's very herky-jerky, though. It could make you throw up. But the animation style is not fluid, but that's for its purpose.
I do have both of those on my PlayStation, so should I decide to dig in, because I'm not a video game guy, but my son enjoyed playing those, potentially. But yeah, I didn't know that you could diversify into Miguel O'Hara territory. So it's interesting.
Yeah, you get the different suits.
The other reason why I was so excited about Into the Spider-Verse and these other 2 films that are coming up is that historically, I'm a Marvel person more than I'm definitely a Marvel woman before I am a DC person. But I do repeatedly go, but DC makes excellent animated properties. Their movies are horseshit. Their animated properties are amazing. Yes, ma'am. And Marvel historically makes terrible animated series.
You flip the script.
Yeah, and so then Into the Spider-Verse came out, and I'm like, but this is amazing. Like, the only thing I like as far as a Marvel animated series before I came out with this is that I did enjoy. They made a Black Panther series in conjunction with BET.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That was dope. That was well done.
More like it was kind of like a motion comic-y thing, was it? I remember when that came out.
I mean, it did. Yeah, and so it was. That was really good. And then they did a Wolverine series that wasn't terrible. And it was Wolverine when he was in Japan. That whole iteration, and that was fun to watch. But everything else they make is just meh. It's just meh.
Yeah. And we thank Sony for we thank Sony for Into the Spider-Verse too, which is that it wasn't Marvel who was behind us, it was Sony. So it was like, I'm glad they did that because now it pushes Marvel to do things proper. So very, very cool that we're getting more of this. But know what else is cool? Speaking of Marvel and Disney Plus, because we're going to get a ton of that, and Marvel is really hitting all cylinders on Disney Plus, is the fact that we're getting more information about the Secret Invasions show. And Cobie Smulders is going to be in this, and it'll probably be one of her biggest roles yet in the Marvel universe because she's only had little small cameos, things like that. So she's coming back to join Nick Fury.
But will she be at the mall?
Yes, Robin Sparkles. That's her actually undercover identity.
Right. Well, I mean, she's a secret agent, so why should it be? Yeah, but I mean, looking at this show, obviously, you can see even just going through the blurb here, but it's just kind of organically, you would assume, pulling in threads from what you saw at the end of Far From Home. Obviously, what you got out of Captain Marvel. You're going to be getting Bendo Mendo or Ben Mendelsohn. Sorry, for the Australian. That's what they call him on the Australian podcast. I like
Bendo Mendo. I like that. I hadn't heard that before. I like that though. I'm going to borrow that. Bendo Mendo is good.
Keep it. But we got Olivia Colman, Emilia Clarke, Kingsley Ben-Adir, Chris McDonald, Shooter McGavin, pew pew pew, and Killian Scott. So that rock solid cast. We're watching Hawkeye right now. Todd and I will talk about that in the Geek Easy, but Marvel just has not had a miss with their TV program so far on Disney Plus. We're not talking about the Inhumans, which couldn't have been a bigger miss.
That was so disappointing.
Oh my god!
From the beginning, all they had to do was get her wig. Like, how could they not get Medusa's hair right? The whole characters about the hair. I was so sad. I was sad from the first episode. I wanted it to get better. Like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was like a rocky road, but then kind of
Right.
got better. And Inhumans never got right.
You know, and it was so funny because I remember when Inhumans dropped, they did it in the IMAX, of which we have a genuine IMAX screen here in town, not the Limax that Todd will describe. Todd has very strong feelings about IMAX.
They killed our IMAX at the theater in Apple Valley, the Minnesota Zoo. That was our real IMAX
was the real
theater.
IMAX, yeah.
But at any rate, we didn't go see it there. But even just watching it on TV, it was such dog shit, pardon my expression, that I can't even imagine what it would look like on an IMAX screen. We watched the first hour of the 2-hour premiere, didn't watch it for over 3 years, and then just finally polished it off because it's on Disney Plus. It couldn't hold my attention. I was looking at my phone the whole time. So boring.
And it's good characters, like the characters of Black Bolt and Medusa and all of those characters. I'm curious about them. And I was, as a fan who didn't read those comics, but knew that I wanted that concept to be in the universe. I wanted it to make sense. The fact that was bad really frustrated me. Frustrated me.
I hear you.
I believe they will get brought back when we get all of the things and it's a different versions of them, and they will be redeemed. Because I think Kevin Feige's like, anything that was done outside of me, I will make it my own and bring it back make it into the MCU.
We need that to make sense now that we are moving into the Celestials. Like once we move off of our
Eternal
planet,
Celestials, yes,
the Eternal
exactly.
things like the Eternal Celestials. Yeah, once we move there, I think that I want to see those characters that are in that pocket of the MCU universe and those things. I want those to pop up. And so I'm curious to see how that happens.
And again, Inhumans, we're so part and parcel to, and I know we're kind of getting off the beaten path here, so part and parcel to the Fantastic Four because that's where they came from, and we know that's going to be coming up. So if you look at the next 5 to 8 years and what's going to happen, it's radical. It's going to be.
Can
exciting.
I ask you a question? What do you two think? Because I'm part of a group of nerds, and we talk on Clubhouse. And so we had a long discussion about what we cared about Fantastic Four. Do you want to see a Fantastic Four's origin movie, or do we want it just to do the Cliff Notes version of it and just get to the story? What do you guys want?
I absolutely love the smartest thing they did with MCU/Sony, Tom Holland Spider-Man, was to bag out on the tired ass, beaten to death origin story. Everybody and their mother. I think that there's not a fetus that comes out of the womb in 2021 that doesn't know Spider-Man's origin story. It's like it's in a cultural DNA that everybody knows. They assimilate it. It's part of our cosmic consciousness that everybody knows that with great power comes great responsibility. Uncle Ben got shot. Spider-Man could have stopped it. Blah, blah, blah. Nobody gives a shit. Just please don't. So you're right. Fantastic Four, maybe not so much, but we've had two versions of they got some cosmic rays, and in one version they went to space, and the other reason they were in that horrible 2015 movie where they were in another dimension and blah, blah, blah. Regardless, they got their powers through supernatural means. They're four people. They're a family. It's a husband and wife. It's a kid brother. It's a best friend. Boom.
I feel
Here we go.
I feel like they can flash back that enough that I don't want to see a full movie about that either. Please. I was really, that's part of the reason why I was really hoping that the scientist in WandaVision was Reed Richards so that we could fast track into that. I was hoping for that.
I was
just because
beat to beat. Yeah,
they've had too many chances to make a decent one, and I know that that's why a lot of fans of that property want us to have an origin story because they have not had a really good foray into it. But I'm like, oh my gosh, we have so much room to cover. I'm more excited about seeing things like the Eternals that have, or Guardians of the Galaxy, or the way that we are expanding the properties. As much as I love the concept of the Fantastic Four, I don't need a full origin story on them.
Well, I will pitch my idea. I will pitch my idea how they do it.
All right.
So it's essentially somebody is going to basically be watching, or the beginning of the movie will be essentially clips from a documentary about these famous guys who are going to be basically, think about what Elon Musk is doing with SpaceX and things like that. This is just a guy who's doing stuff, smartest man in the room. He's got his team, and people are going to be kind of watching, like, they'll show clips of like a documentary, kind of like how they formed, everything like that, and then something horribly happened and then cut away. Or something like that, or you don't hear. Okay. It's like, or whatever happened to they dub them the Fantastic Four, kind of like, because everybody gets dubbed a name, and they said whatever happened to them, and then potentially it could be like the Eternals getting the team back together because of something happens, and they didn't realize they were all experiencing these effects of where they were at, and they maybe something triggers it, like the whatever it is in Eternals, that thing that triggered it. Maybe that triggered then whatever they experienced, some radiation that
cosmic rays,
and then they have to come back here like, what the hell happened to us, Reed? And then that's where they go. Okay. Maybe that's how they go.
I would do that, because I just don't want a 2.5 hour movie of get and they go to space and then they come back and then this thing happens and all this stuff. I don't want all that. But maybe I know too much about it. But
it's just, it's lather, rinse, repeat. Why do they have to again? In that horrible Josh Trank movie in 2015, they had to take it. And again, I realize we've gotten completely far away from what the hell we were talking about, but who cares? The Josh Trank movie,
that's a geek way, I think, is what you call that. Yeah,
which I will
back around.
I will tell you, it's been 6 years, Todd. I've been doing this 7 years. I took the bullet of going to see this movie for him so that he has never had to see it, because that is real friendship. I'm not going to lie to you, Todd. I'm going to put this one right back on you.
I've taken bullets too for other movies, so we kind of do that.
This is film, it's just beyond horror.
It's and the thing that's kind of disappointing about it, Todd, is that it has an excellent cast that's given terrible material,
like the prequels.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's no reason, and then the direction that they are given to display these characters is faulty. And that's the problem that I have with it, because if you want to talk about the prequels, I think that, again, great characters, wonderful actors, told to act a certain way, that is terrible.
And that director, unfortunately, you saw
one of the best. One of the best scenes ever, if we want to take a look. One of the best scenes ever. That whole scene, though, with Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, and Darth Maul, best scene ever. That's one of the best scenes ever.
All that is the shining part. Yeah, the shining part of that series is that, and plus the duel of fates in the background.
The duel of fate. Yeah. But if you you look at the fact, and this was made by, I do a Star Wars podcast with our shared, husband, as it were, Mark. But I was chatting with our friend John, and they said, you know what? Samuel L. Jackson. How could someone make Samuel L. Jackson a shitty actor? He says, you take a smoldering badass and you try to turn him into this diplomat, blah, blah, blah. Well,
boring dude.
It's just boring as shit. And you give him
him to be dry. Right.
You give him 5 minutes. You get him 5 minutes at the end where he's trying to murder Palpatine, and that was as interesting as he could be, and he still couldn't pull it off because it didn't fit the story. So, all right. So I'm gonna do what I do, and I'm gonna steer us back on track. Why don't we move on to the next?
Charlie's the time clock, so he's Mr. Minutes, I guess, as we'll call him. Yes,
Mr. Minutes.
Yeah. So that series is coming out in late 2022. So the Skrulls, all the fun. I expect a ton of plot details that will then go into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Cannot wait. Right. Maria Hill is definitely instrumental in all of that. I believe she was the Skrull Queen. But overall, you can read the comics if you want to know more about that. We then go to the last story, which I think is just weird and ridiculous. That is, Nic Cage is going to be in a Dracula film. It's also a comedy.
I want to suck your blood.
It wasn't a vampire movie, though.
Oh, was it Dracula Dead and Loving It? Which
The Vampire's Kiss? Was that what it was called?
Vampire's Kiss.
Yeah.
But here's why he is great. Because Nic Cage, he is so good when he doubles down on weird. And I think since he's going to be in this Renfield movie, this thing, the fact that the concept of this dysfunctional relationship that Renfield has with Dracula, that is what I think Nic Cage is really good at. Because even if you look at, what was that Five Fingers or that Fry Freddy's knockoff.
Oh,
movie.
Five Nights at Freddy. Yeah, I remember that movie where he was
it wasn't
janitor
that movie.
cleaning up.
Five
It
Finger
wasn't
Freddy.
called that, but it was called.
Yeah.
It wasn't called Five Nights at Freddy.
It was
it was
the Five-Fingered Freddy with Tom Scott. I don't know. You know what? Don't listen to me. I know what you're talking about.
Yes. He played a janitor cleaning up in a children's amusement thing.
Talks.
Yeah.
You know, he never talks. He never says anything. He just stays this character. And, you know, when you watch him, when he goes all in on crazy like that, it absolutely it was called Willy's Wonderland. And so it's all mayhem. But watching him, Nic Cage out in that was truly joyous to me. And that's what I think him as Dracula, like, I don't think that he's gonna be like, I think he'll be this understated but just all in the ridiculousness, and that's what I find interesting about this concept. I think it'll be gloriously weird.
It's gonna be a comedy.
Right. Glory. Yeah, God, please. And again, like you said, the cohort of this is is Aquafina, who, for God's sake, I adore her. Absolutely adore her.
Got it. So Chris McKay is the director, which it's a screenplay by Ryan Ridley and Robert Kirkman from The Walking Dead. So it's going to have a good script. Chris McKay directed Lego Batman. He also directed, what else? I'm trying to look at what else he directed. So he knows how to do comedy. He did the Lego movie and Lego Batman. So, and he did that, unfortunately, that horrible Tomorrow War film with Chris Pratt. That was not very good.
It wasn't so, you know what? Not very good. Not very good, but I don't.
It was an Amazon Prime film. Let's put it that way. Amazon Prime film. And then Aquafina is going to be Nicholas Holt's girlfriend, fiance, significant other. He is Renfield, and essentially he has got tired of taking Dracula's crap, and they are now figuring out how they will kill Dracula. So this could be genius. And I love the fact that Nicolas Cage is doing a comedy, because literally I don't remember the last time he did a comedy. So I like this. The cast looks good.
He did that be a lot super of fun. Dark comedy where he played the dad that wanted to murder the kids. He was in that. So he's done a lot of really... Yeah.
I don't know that one. But
black comedies.
But again...
Black comedies. He's really dark comedies.
Key to say intentional comedy, because Todd, the bees.
Oh yes. Nick Cage, when Nick Cage goes on. Oh, the Wicker Man, when he does that line, the bees.
The bees.
So, yeah. He was
fantastic
in Ghost Rider.
And Face Off.
He was fantastic in Ghost Rider and Face Off, which is one of my favorite cult films, because that is so ridiculous. But Nic Cage, when he is being him, I put him in the same category as Jeff Goldblum. Where when Jeff Goldblum goes full Goldblum, how can you not love it? And so when Nic Cage is just like, look, I know this is weird, and I showed up and I'm here for it. Like, I feel like Nic Cage never phones it in. Like some other actors
open up the throttle.
Right. I feel like Matthew McConaughey, amazing actor, but you can tell when he's phoning it in. Like in Dark Tower, you could tell that he's all like, I took this part and then I really don't care. And then the check cash. Right. But I feel like Nic Cage is like, I took this part. I will full Nic Cage everything that I do. And so him as Dracula is going to be such a fun, insane ride. Like, because if they go do this crazy thing, he's going to do it. And you'll go,
I just hope he has the Francis Ford Coppola, Gary Oldman big beehive wig in the drag.
Okay.
I hope he has that.
Cool with that.
I want him to go all in. Yeah.
Like, you remember the Treehouse
Mr.
of Horror?
Burns.
That was Mr. Burns. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm down with that. I'm down with that.
Yeah. I'm in. All right. Well, hey, that's it. So let's move it on along, because we've got Greedy Pastures to tackle. Let's call that Uber. Let's get down to the kind of skeevy neighborhood where we have the geekies, so we can talk a little bit about what we're enjoying this week. So let's do it.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're sitting in the Geek Easy, cover band's playing, drinks are poured, and we are ready to get our nerd on. So, Miss Shannon, why don't you kick it off? Anything you've been watching or reading that has got you geeked?
You know what? I've been catching up because one of the blind spots that I had from back in the day was reading anything about Moon Knight, and I'm really excited about that
Ooh,
series.
nice.
And so I didn't know anything other than bits and pieces, and I was one of the people who would mistakenly say, "Oh, it's kind of like Batman." And now that I'm like reading about it, I'm like, okay, now I see why people who read it were like,
Mm-hmm.
"Stop saying he's like Batman," because he's
Mhm.
not. Like, so it made me really go. That's what I'm trying to catch up on is one of the things I'm enjoying most about the way that they are doing things in the MCU is stuff that I hadn't read before. I have a quality reason why to start reading them and look back at them, and that's been a lot of fun. So I'm doing a lot of that, is looking up all these backstories, so that I can have more than a 5-minute conversation with people who were like, "We read that back in the day," and I'm like, I know, I'm catching up. So that's
Is
what's
that
been on my nightstand lately.
Yeah, right.
is that the three-piece suit Moon Knight or the cape Moon Knight?
The Cape Move Night. So the
Okay,
Cape.
because
Well,
there's a three-piece suit
I,
era of
I
Moon Knight, which is really cool.
Right. I feel like it goes back and forth, but yes, it's very Moon Knight. And again, back in the day, he was a West Coast Avenger, which again, West Coast Avengers is that's my slice. But I mean, anyway, we don't need to get into that. But
But
that's
I
cool.
also like the idea of the religious zealousy concept that
Mm-hmm.
we get to cover when we bring in this character, which was something that I didn't know before. And I was just reading an article that was talking about how some of the new properties are for a comic book slash that's not a full-on graphic novel, shows kind of how aggressive this character is. And they were talking about even like this whole black and white cover that had this one like that showed this pool of blood and those things. So I'm just really even interested in the way that they are changing the way some of this cover art is to show this character. So that's where I'm at lately, is just, which is a different rabbit hole than I normally jump down. And so
His nickname or his title is the Fist of Khonshu, so he's basically like the hand of God. He enacts
Right.
the wrath of this Egyptian god, and sometimes he's been misled, sometimes he's been lied to. So he's a unique character that has not necessarily one unique origin. He's layers of layers. So he's very cool.
And then I know that I also like the concept of, where I'm getting into the layering and the interweaving and interwoven nature of the mental health issues that he's had because of those things. I find that really interesting as well. So trying to have a character that's that complex, I'm finding very enjoyable to be able to have those conversations and go, oh, no, this is why you have these mental health challenges and this dissociated personality disorder and these other things that he's had. So again, another reason to go, oh no, much more complicated than Batman. So I'm digging that right now.
Totally. And how cool do you got to be? Like, I'm going to be out there wearing white. Hard to miss.
Right. Even in the dark of the night when he's fighting as a soldier of fortune.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not afraid to wear white after Labor Day.
Yeah,
which you fashion nuts. There you go.
I'm afraid to wear white all the time. Like, you know how hard it is to not like bump up against your dusty, salty car. We all live in places where there's legitimate winter, and I don't want to wear white. So
white is a terrible color for almost everything. I'm not going to deny.
Right, except for Moon Knight.
Yes.
Except for Moon Knight. Well, let me take it. Let me take it over here. I have been watching Star Trek Discovery, which, of course, I'll be talking about with my partner, Peter, over on Code 47, which will drop again next week. We're going bi-weekly, but you'll be hearing about 2 episodes in one. But they had kind of a cool episode this week. Todd, are you back on par with the show? Or you're watching it again?
I just finished episode 2 of season 4, so I'm not on the latest episode.
Okay. Well, I will. Then I will keep it kind of light. But we got a good episode. It really tied in with the main theme. Todd, as you know, it's your favorite Star Trek cliche, which is the space anomaly going on right now. We have this huge destructive cloud going through the universe. We don't know why. And again, a portion of this episode kind of tied in with addressing that because you had, the Commander Stamets go to Navarre, which used to be known as Vulcan, but it's the place where the Vulcan and the Romulans now live. Took Book with him to kind of plead the case. But you had a fun kind of tie-in back to Picard with the warrior nuns, the Romulan warrior nuns.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of what that storyline looked like. And again, it's 1,000 years beforehand almost. But one of the warrior nuns of the day and age is Captain Michael Burnham's mother, who is a character that we followed. We followed their very complicated relationship throughout seasons 2 and season 3. So this was a great tie back to what that was like and kind of what that looks like when that kind of crosses up with Starfleet, morals and missions. So this was a pretty cool episode that I think managed to split. Stick with the main story, but also diversify out and tell two different other stories at the same time. So I was super impressed with that. So Todd, I would say get caught up. Miss Shannan, are you a Trekker at all? Do you follow Discovery?
I do. I'm a whole season behind though, just because of life.
That's okay.
Yeah,
I feel
but
you.
I
feel
do.
you.
Yeah. And it wasn't even, it was one of those shows that I was on it. And then when things got complicated last year, it just was so hard for me to find time to sit down in front of my flat screen and catch up on everything. And so it was one of the shows that I just fell off on. And I was trying to figure out why, because that was one of my first fandoms is Star Trek and watching it with my mom. And just really like the characters, love the attachment to the characters, and really was like, how come this one wasn't the thing? And you know what it was, is that there's a few shows that I really like, but that wasn't a show that on top of everything else in my life, I find entertaining, if that makes sense. Because sometimes because of the way that show is, it's a great show. It's really the whole reason that I fell off of, as much as I love dragons, Game of Thrones. I'm like, there are parts about it that I'm like, today I don't need to go on this emotional roller coaster. I don't want to do all this stuff. So it wasn't entertaining for a little while. And I think that's why when I only had certain pockets to watch stuff, it wasn't the first thing I picked for a while. And now I'm just like, well, I'm going to watch Hawkeye. There's just easier stuff. Easier. That's a good word. Easier stuff to watch than Discovery sometimes.
Right. Yeah, I would actually agree with you. Discovery, I love the show. And it was a show I was doubtful at first because I was like, how are they going to do this? I hate prequels. And obviously they flipped the script on all of that, which is cool. True. But it is so melodramatic. So much emotion. And it's like, we need some lighter elements eventually, because every season is like, it's the end of the universe again. It's like, Star Trek at its best does a really good job of balancing the highs and the lows and fun and giving everybody a little bit of levity. And at this point, man, that's why I like the short treks, because they did do some of those fun things in between. And I think Discovery could use some balance. So I hope they do.
Yeah.
So,
because even Picard, had bright moments. And so Discovery, that's the only reason why I haven't been as invested as I was, because just there's a lot of heavy things going on in the world right now.
I need Burnham to dress up like go on the holodeck in her apartment now, which she gets, spoiler, sorry, and just have an adventure that's goofy, right? I'm going to go and investigate and be Sherlock Holmes again. I don't know, whatever. Be a superhero. Have fun.
I feel
exactly.
like, and every character can't be going through it every episode. Like they're all going through it, and it's like, oh my gosh, this just. I get it.
They're gonna try without a doubt. So anyway, for more on that, definitely tune back into Code 47, because my partner Peter and I are going to be talking about that. So secondly, really quickly, April and I went to the movies on Friday. She had a rough week and just needed to see something. So we saw House of Gucci. This was a story that I knew absolutely nothing about in the slightest. But yeah, the story of the Gucci, the clothing maker, the fashionista in the late 70s, throughout the 80s and into the 90s, about the one of the, it was a pair of cousins, it was a dad, and then it was an unscrupulous wife who came along and wanted to have her things her way. And the unscrupulous wife was Lady Gaga. And what a weird transformation for her to, the way that she looked like she was heavyset, and then she looked like she was skinny, and then everybody with the Italian accents, and it was just Father, Son, and House of Gucci. That was one that came from the trailer. And
Gucci, what a cool name. I want to be Taddeo Todd.
Taddeo.
And she
that's
lived the concept of what Lady Gaga, like, she went full method and like lived in that character and talked in that accent for the entire time she was in that character. So yeah. So what did you think? Did you enjoy? Did you buy into it or did you find it cheesy?
I did. I found, and again, this is a leitmotif that happened to me when I was watching the Venom movie. I kind of fell asleep at one point, and the wife had to kind of nudge me. But yeah, I don't know. It must have been during the most boring part of the film, because the rest of it was very engaging. Watching them, watching from the beginning of the film to, certainly what's portrayed at the end of it, where they do, any biopic, they have the, 30 seconds of recap is, here's what happened since the story ended and blah, blah, blah. And I always love that they say it's inspired by true events, not based on true events, which means they can just go batshit crazy and do whatever the hell they want. But how they took it from the late 70s, that it was a family-owned company and people in the family were involved, to the fact that this day and the age, there are no members of the Gucci family that are part of the Gucci brand. It's
murder
totally
does a little bit something to a corporate culture when there's murder involved in the family.
It did. Yeah. And Todd, I was remembering, because that happened in 1995 when you and I were in college. And I feel like I heard something about it when it happened, but didn't have any kind of conceptualization of what that was all about. So, it was certainly very interesting. But yeah, it's really wild to think about. This was something that they came in and two people completely corrupted it and destroyed what existed for personal greed.
Right.
So
that movie, either they're all gonna get Oscars for it, or it's gonna get like all, Razzies. Right. Like, people are so polarized on those performances between Lady Gaga and Adam Driver and everybody else. Like, I just thought it was okay. Like, either they're like, it was the best ever and the most method, or what the hell were these people doing? And that I find fascinating. I love it.
I've heard this called Ridley Scott makes a Lifetime movie.
Maybe,
so there you go.
Maybe a little bit. All right, Todd, let's move it along to talk about something both you and I have watched. So
so Shannon, Miss Shannon, are you caught up on Hawkeye?
You can talk about it. Don't worry. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I won't. No spoilers, because it's still in the mix. It just came out a couple.
Yeah, exactly. I know a bunch of people are watching all of them all at one time. So
So Hawkeye episode 3 is. I feel like we finally get some momentum about the main why we're here and who we're going to be facing off on, which is very cool. I would say this episode had some really cool action and fighting scenes, which I thought was great. We needed that again. And it had a very cool, like, oh, no, they didn't moment. So I won't give up that moment, because when you see it, it'll blow your mind.
I was one of those people that was not excited about a Hawkeye series. I was still super wounded about the way that they killed Natasha. I think that she deserved better. It didn't look right. I was just kind of meh. I was still wounded with the way that they treated Black Widow, so I had a terrible attitude about this series before it dropped. I am enjoying it more than I thought. Like, it is doing a good enough job that it is overcoming the fact that I came into it with a bad attitude. And I will admit that. Like, there wasn't anything wrong with the concept in theory, other than I was not in the mood for another white guy superhero series. Because that's just a story, as cool as Hawkeye is. I mean, for a white guy superhero dude, I'm not saying that he's a bad one. We just see that story a lot. So I would have much rather seen it flipped. As much as he's a family man, this happens, blah, blah, blah. That's why I was excited about Kate Bishop, all these other things. Because I don't want to see another. We just got a bunch of those. That's the only reason I was like, meh, about the whole thing. I am enjoying it more than I thought. And that's because they don't make garbage. So I am okay with it, but I'm still waiting for it to pull me in like a Loki did, or even like, I won't even compare it to a Loki, because that doesn't make any sense. But if we go all the way back to Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I think is a more action driven one, like this is.
Loved it. One of my favorites.
Yeah. And I want to really care about him, to the point that I don't feel like they made the wrong choice and he should be at the bottom of that cliff. You know what I mean?
I'm starting to understand. This is really more about Natasha's sacrifice and him dealing with it. because
Yeah.
I think
you're right.
she knew she had to be sacrificed because he has a family. He's got kids that depend on him. She had no one at that time, so she didn't.
I know,
so there was a
but-
lot of things there. I totally get it.
Right.
And they do add some layers on things that he's dealing with, which I think are cool because there's some very cool inclusion parts of this, which is very cool. And you get introduced to a certain character who is an antagonist in this, and she is given a cool background. And she is a unique character. So I like what they're doing, bringing in parts of the comic book. This is also a little bit of a comedy, dealing with some different things that I've read a little bit of the comic book this is based on. So it does a very good job of mirroring that, which I like that. And I will hit this way. Hawkeye never got a lot of screen time, and he never got a lot as much as like Natasha got far more screen time. Movies and things like that. So Hawkeye got very little. So he had very little to work with. So a lot of people didn't have attachments. So I think sometimes Marvel says, well, we're going to give these characters more, like just like Scarlet Witch, Vision, giving them more to work with. So I think that's sometimes giving characters a second chance, especially characters they developed. And so I understand, though. It's not for everybody, especially, they brought in Kate Bishop, who's essentially a poor little rich girl. So hard to do that. But I am enjoying it.
We'll take a left, a nerd left. Have you listened to Jeremy Renner's album?
Ooh,
I'm not a big fan of him at all, to be honest. He just, the Bourne movies, his identity, those stupid Jeep commercials. I'm like, dude, I'm not digging you, man. You've got this like thing about him that just does not get me. Or even like
made me like him better. His album, album is very, don't get me wrong, it's very
he seemed very bro to me, which is it's a
little Coldplay-ish broy, but it's a good one for the genre. It's good at it, and there's So I'll send you the link. It's all right.
Well,
Jerry, he's a good singer. I'm like, he's a good singer.
If he breaks out a guitar in one episode, I guess we'll get to see if that happens.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, but so I'm really excited to see what they do. And there is a cool moment at the end of this episode, which I kind of predicted that I think we know who the main antagonist is, but we'll see how that goes. So no spoilers.
Exactly.
I'm ready for that. I'm ready for that,
Yeah.
and I know that I want this to work because I do truly trust that all of these Disney Plus series are going to reward me as a fan of the universe. So I'm cool with that. I'm very cool with that, and that would be enough to make me watch it, even if I was meh on it. So
right,
yeah. Lastly, just very quickly, I saw the news that they announced that there's going to be a new Doctor Who New Year's Eve special, or New Year's Day special coming out, which I'm more hopeful about Doctor Who now after I watched the season premiere of the third season of the current Doctor, which I will say they've done quite a bit of course correcting of things I think they needed to fix. And this series has had a hard time because they did so much new Doctor, new showrunner, do all this stuff. It's a lot there. Plus, we're going to add 85 companions, which then said nobody gets any screen time. So they have course corrected. It's one main companion. I can't remember the name. She is the Indian girl, the British Indian girl. She's the main companion. They bring someone else in a very interesting standpoint, but it's essentially a Halloween-themed horror 6-part series called Flux. This is the first part. It's doing something completely new. I really enjoyed it. I thought they got it finally to a good focus, and I'm really hoping Jodie Whittaker finally gets the show and the writing that she's deserved.
She deserves,
right? Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
Agree, and I found out, surprise to me, I was talking to my podcast life mate from BeOurGeek show, Jayden, today. He's caught up, and so now he's in front of me, and I was shocked because he's never been caught up on Doctor Who. Like normally I'm always like a season in front of him. And so
Must
he
be
just
good then.
hunkered down and just was like, yep, I'm going to catch up. And I was stunned that he said that. So now I have even more of a reason to catch up. And I, love that fandom. I do like the reason why I was okay with them having 75 companions is because they did get into this trope of
the number keeps going up. It was 75. Damn.
Yeah, I wanted to get out of having a companion that was also unrequited love interest.
Yes, thank God.
Because that disappointed me. Because I grew up on the classic series, which didn't have that, and then we went so far into that with the David Tennants and even with the Matt Smiths that I just wanted to get away from it.
True.
So I felt like having, and we know it was only 3, but having 3 at a time was a good palate cleanser. As far as I was concerned, for them to go, well, we don't have to do that. Sometimes, like, my favorite new iteration before we got to where we are now with Jodie Whittaker was when it was David Tennant and Donna Noble. And
Yes, love Donna Noble.
Just I loved that Dr. Donna character and always wanted to have her come back. And I loved that there was tension there. There was that she was, it had to get up to speed on other things, but they were partners and buddies, and she was a companion again, not, oh, well, really? Like I was
will they or won't they?
Out. Yeah, I was wore out on the way that they had Matt Smith and the way they treated poor Rory in that whole series. Like, I was just
Shannon, you and I are like speaking the same language because I have those same complaints. I loved it. I think they flipped it with Capaldi because he was an older character. They brought in some things, so they did kind of remove some elements because he was just a grumpy old dude at times. But I totally
and Clara
get it.
Was like that was a different one, so I'm cool with that. And so I was just ready for them to get out of that because doing it for a moment would have been fine, but then it just made them treat like characters like when we go back to David Tennant and Martha, what a great character that they just shit on.
She didn't get much. She didn't get much. Yeah, there was. Yeah, she was another great companion. Yeah, so I agree. So I'm hoping this is the shift to the right chemistry, the right tension that you need with those characters. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. But I like this first season really grabbed me back in. So I liked it. So if folks who've walked away from Doctor Who, check it out. It's very fun. It's on BBC America. Charlie, I was telling you, Philo, AMC Plus currently. It won't come to be HBO Max until the season is wrapped up. So you got to watch it somewhere else. So I guess that's it for the Geek Easy. And we are now going to check in with the mutants in the Thunderdome and talk about our topic for this week.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
Thank you, Tina. We're sitting in the Thunderdome where the mutants have been gathered for a topic or a game to be entertained. And this week, our topic is, what is the future of geek conventions?
Who's gonna cook something? Convection.
Yeah, exactly, in the oven. That is geek
much more
culture.
Delicious than that's much more delicious.
Can
than
be.
What we're probably gonna get.
Depending if you have a good recipe, and we're going to talk about that recipe because we've all gone to cons, and if you've never gone to one, folks, please go to one. I'm sure there's some in your area, small or big. But what we're going to talk about is Charlie and I are going to C2E2. Actually, by the time you hear this, next Friday. We've all gone to cons in the world. Well, some of us have gone to cons in the world of COVID and reacted. So I want to say, in 2022. Do we expect cons to have changed for a different audience with adding in virtual, or do you expect it to go back the way it was? I mean, excluding wearing masks and things like that, but going fully just in person. So, Shannon, you have been into all these cons. Where do you see it going? Understanding Omicron still exists, all these things are happening, but where do you think we'll see cons go in 2022?
I think that the intelligent cons will continue on in a hybrid format. I think that there's still a lot of people who are not comfortable being in those group settings for lots of reasons. I think that we still live in a world where we don't know what the next variant's going to be and those things, and you're more likely to have to cancel something if you don't at least have thought through the hybrid format. Like, I'm going to be part of our Twin Cities based Doctor Who convention that we have in January called Console Room. They're still having a hybrid format, and there's some things that are in person, but I just got a schedule today of some things that we are pre-recording and providing that resource. And they've done a great job of providing content that you can watch online and in Discord and building that community, so that when we can meet in person, or people who are interested in meeting in person still can. I'm also signed up for Gallifrey 1, which is the big Doctor Who con that they have in California in February. And we just got an email that said, hey, just because of COVID guidelines, not only does everybody have to wear a mask, now you have to show proof of vaccination. Just because I live on the side of I got vaccinated and got my booster, I still know that there are a lot of people who are not comfortable with that. And having a hybrid format allows you to still allow those fans to participate, but them still to make the choice that they want to make, whether I agree with their choice or not. And I'm for that because I do want it to figure out a way that we can still build our fan bases and allow people to connect, because especially if you come from a geek community, I mean, I think you and I, all of us are all in the same age. So we already grew up in that world of feeling alone or the other or isolated or nobody got what you were into. And we've gotten a little better about that. You know, I think that fandoms have built and grown. But there's still a lot of, what do you feel comfortable bringing your kids to? And that's something that I think changes, you know, over time. And so staying in this hybrid format, like we just had our first Omicron case here in Minnesota, and it was somebody who said that they were at an anime convention, which I've been to forever. I've been to that con in New York. So you know, and that was a breakthrough case. And so I think,
and people are wearing masks as they cosplay too. So it's like you can do everything you want. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
And it's still just a reality.
Right. And, you know, we did a con here locally, Grand Rapids Comic-Con. I believe it or not, I was ill earlier that week, and I went and got my COVID test, which I was like, ugh, and turned out it was negative. So when I was helping set up on Thursday, I was masked the whole time. I got my results, and I felt comfortable taking the mask off. Didn't see a ton of masks during the event. Later learned just recently, because I was with the guy who put the show on, that his attendance was down, but only by 15% over 2 years prior. So to be honest with you, a bounce back of that, you know, maintaining that much of his audience over having an entire year off, and he did do a smaller show earlier this year, is actually pretty impressive. And there hasn't been any big blowout of like, oh my God, there was COVID absolutely everywhere after Grand Rapids Comic-Con, because there was, you know, 20,000 people going through this big convention hall in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Things still managed to maintain. So yeah, you're right. It's all essentially going to be about being smart and paying attention. And we're not great at that as a society here in this country, without getting, you know, too fine of a point upon it, with people who are maybe not necessarily pulling their weight in making this whole thing go away. But we can't affect that. All we can really do is affect what we do. Being smart. Todd, you've had your booster. April and I are getting our booster tomorrow. And I will tell you very strongly that here at Secret Friends Unite, we're very big proponents of science. We're proponents of being responsible. So certainly if that is not something you have engaged in, you're hearing the sound of my voice, please consider it extremely strongly about being responsible and taking care of your fellow man and woman.
Absolutely. One thing I was going to say, to your point, I do like the fact of hybrid. I always have loved that idea, because I've always said, I've been to San Diego Comic-Con once in 2010. To be able to do that again is very difficult. Hard to get tickets. Got to fly out to San Diego. Not cheap. Find a place to stay. Not cheap. It's very exclusionary. If you're a person of, you know, limited means, you're excluded, and then you miss out on so many cool opportunities. I think of all those panels that people want to go, and I will tell you, being at panels before, I would not be offended if other people online got to attend those panels. I'm there. I'm getting the experience of it. I'm loving it. I don't feel offended that other people get to experience that. So I would love to see more of that, where they all open it up, because right now it's scary to fly. Flights are getting canceled. That's a lot of money. Getting flights, you know, people are acting crazy on flights. So I love the idea of that. And I would love it. I think a lot of celebrities that go to these cons too would love the opportunity to still make money by doing one-on-one virtual interviews with people that they love, and they could do those things. And, you know, yes, I understand people want to do one-on-ones and want to be in person, but ultimately you're going to have celebrities cancel. And that would make people sad. Right?
It happened all over the place. At our local show we had, I know John Glover canceled out. We had some other people drop out at the last moment. So, you know, people definitely do have to take care of themselves. That makes sense. And we're still living in that world. It's going to be that way for a couple more years. No matter what happens, no matter if people who aren't acting right decide to act right, or if they don't, you know, we're gonna see this through. But it's a matter of how quickly and at what cost
Right.
What human cost there's going to be for everybody. Again, everybody doing their part. I'm reminded of the stories of the scrap iron drives during World War II. I'm doing my part. I'm trying to help humanity survive. That's what this is. Without me being too much on my soapbox, that's really where I'm at with this, because I do catch wind here and there in my life of people who haven't gotten a vaccine or people who won't get a vaccine, and I'm staggered by the arrogance and the ignorance of people who don't want to do that.
There's a lot to it, though. I mean, people have their personal choices, things like that. So we know how we feel, and that's not what we're trying to do.
And I agree. And I know that there are also like there are layers of generational trauma that have some people that are doing it. We've made it political, all those things. I, not only got vaccinated and had my booster, went through a lot of work to get my son vaccinated because he's 13. And so when he was able, but because of the way that he processes language, it was actually like it took us like 3 times, like kind of thing. And finally, okay, this time we go, just because of the way that the layout was to get those done. And still, since so much of my profession is being around people, true. Because I have a show or I have a this or I have a that. Like when my friends are like, hey, do you want to go out to this bar? I'm like, let's DoorDash it. And I want to support, because a lot of my friends and are in that industry, but I still go, all right, well, let me be really picky, because I know, it was bad enough when my kid had RSV 3 years ago. I'm like, I don't need us to get sick. And so it's, that's kind of how I feel, that I like the concept. Like, I'm honestly going to more things now as a single mom with a special needs kid, being able to tap into things through technology has really broadened my world for a lot of things, because I'm like I'm talking to you both right now,
absolutely.
Kind of thing. But it would have been really complicated for me to go, am I going to get a sitter to be able to do this? And I look at cons in a similar way, is that, me deciding that I'm going to take the whole weekend off to do a thing. Yeah, sometimes I could do that, but I'm doing more now than I was before, where I probably wouldn't have done these 2 months back-to-back nerd cons if I was still going to go to New York, or I was still going to do some of these other things, because back to what you said, Todd, even for me that loves all this stuff, it's cost prohibitive to do all these things. Like my friend, that I normally go, we do one big geek vacation every year. And so we usually try and get San Diego tickets, and then we try and get New York. And then once we had a chance to go to both, we just said, well, we like New York better because there's, it's, if we're spending that much money, and it's a considerable amount of money, we're going to go to New York, because there's just more to do in New York other than go to the con. And San Diego, it was fascinating, though, just watching people just sleeping outside to go into Hall H and all of these things. And I'm going, I don't see myself doing that again with the amount of time that I have in my life right now. I really learned over 2020, life is short. What things are you really going to tap into? I'm not standing outside of Hall H anymore. I'll watch all the clips online when I get home. I mean, I'm not going to spend my time doing that. So
the time is past. It would be like saying, I'm waiting around to get my hat blocked, or I'm waiting to get my, my horseshoes cobbled. It's something that is just not real anymore. It's a time that is past. It's like saying I'm waiting on my, I'm looking to plug in my 8-track tape, or I'm going to play my laser disc, or I'm waiting on a fax, or I'm going to play my cassette tape so I can listen to, the latest George Michael record. It's just not where the world is at. Things, we've turned the page. Quote Bob Seger, another Michigan classic.
And I was going to say,
you both probably remember, I have VHS tapes. Like I have a copy of Star Wars Episode 1.1, that special cut where they took out all the superfluous, Jar Jar Binks and Anakin, that I had to buy at the time at a con.
Yeah.
But now everything's online,
Right. I have my, DVD of, I think Todd and I went to Wizard World in Chicago tons of times, and I had DVDs of all the Batman 66 because that was a bootleg. And now I turned around and bought it digitally.
The first Fantastic Four film by Roger Corman.
Which can't find. But again, or the Star Wars Holiday Special, which again, I bought it on disc and I have it on disc, and my family won't watch it anyway. But it's on but it's on YouTube, so it's like, yeah, it's just things move on, and you have to move on with them. So yeah, you're right. The con experience to me ties in more with, and again, I'm an exhibitor. The wife and I run the fan club. We have a huge booth area. We have, we raise money for Make-A-Wish Foundation. That's kind of the focus of what we do. We create kind of a fan experience. We get people to join our chapter, which is really what we're driving at. But again, the con experience is seeing things. It's a lot of shopping and like, oh, there's this vendor here who's selling stickers, or they're selling coffee mugs, or whatever it is. But yeah, the big. I want to hear what's going on with Marvel, and again, Todd and I and our best friend John are going to C2E2, but we have plans to see. Well, I want to see this panel because these people are here. But again, somebody's going to turn around and maybe that'll be even happening in the fact and streaming that somewhere online that it negates that experience. And again, Todd and John and I, we're very excited about this. We've not been together hanging out all in one place in 2 decades. Since we were
and he's flying from Washington, and he's scared to crap that somebody's going to get caught in his family with the virus and he can't fly out. So to that point, the risk of it, but the reward of it is finally getting us together after 20 years in Chicago to do something cool. So I get it. I'm not a fool. It's still nice to be together, but like I said, let's take away the barriers so people who just can experience too. I think that's a hallmark of geeks. Inclusivity, it's fun. It's fun to be a geek and to get excluded of something just because you can't afford it. That's kind of sad because, we just want to make everybody happy and enjoy all the cool stuff. So thank you, everyone, for your thoughts on the geek future. And of course, if you listen to the end of our show, you'll tell us how you can do it on the Twitters and everything like that. But before we leave, Miss Shannan, this has been a pleasure. Wonderful time.
Wonderful. Oh my God.
We had to keep up with you.
Please. And let this simply be the first of many, because we would love to build something here. This has been, Todd and I have had a lot of guests. We've had a lot of highs and lows. We've been doing this show for 7 years.
All highs, Charlie, no lows.
And this has been one of the best experiences we've had. So I'm very grateful. Would love to continue to work with you. So tell us where you're at. Tell us where people who haven't heard of you, who have now heard of you, can continue to hear from you.
You can always go to my website. It's Miss Shannan, Shannan with an A, so MissShannan.com. I'm easy to find on all the socials, so if you go to Twitter or any of those things, just look for Miss Shannan, Shannan with an A, every place that you go. And, like here in town, I will be one of the invited participants for Console Room, our local Doctor Who convention that we have coming up in January. I have a great show. If you like, Todd, if you want to, New Year's Eve, if you don't have plans, you're welcome to come see me perform at the New Hope Cinema Grill with my bestie, Tiffany.
Oh, nice.
Gordon. You can do that. So we got 2 shows that are going on there. So it's always fun. So we're glad to provide opportunities for that. Also, if you just want to be part of our community, I do a weekly live stream with my friend Tiffany. We do a show called The Black Unicorn and the White Witch on Facebook. And that's our little names for each other, The Black Unicorn and the White Witch. And we do a weekly pop culture live stream that we do as well. So you can find that on Facebook and YouTube. And you can always find my podcast, Be Our Geek, which I would love to have both of you come on and talk about whatever you are geeking out about at whatever moment it is that you're on the show. Mm-hmm.
Please.
That's fantastic. And if they do not have it yet, your podcast needs to be on the 107.1 website, is it?
Oh, it is. Yes. So you can go to My Talk 101.
Okay.
You can do that. You can also go to podcast1.com. We're part of the podcast network. So go to Podcast One Network and you just look for Be Our Geek. And you can find us wherever you find your favorite podcast. Our next episode drops. We drop new episodes on every Wednesday. Except we took a break over the, my
did too.
podcast. Yeah, my podcast, My Life Mate, is the executive director of the Twin Cities Film Fest. So that happens in October. So we get soups busy.
I hear you.
Absolutely.
And then we always pick back up in December. Yeah, so we'll pick back up and you'll see a new episode starting this week on. So.
Awesome.
That's fantastic. Right. Oh, it's been a pleasure.
Yes, please. Yes, let's continue to collaborate. But yeah, I will take us out. Of course, Todd and I can be found out there in the social world. I'm over at Twitter at the C3. spell it out. I also promote the USS Grand Petoskey on our website, which is .com, and also on Facebook. That is the Starfleet International chapter of the fan club that's been around since the 1970s. Here in West Michigan, loving to talk about Star Trek. Of course, I'm also over on Holocrime Chronicles and Code 47 bi-weekly on this delightful podcast network that we have.
Yes, and you can follow me at Toxtra for just my old man rantings when my garbage doesn't get picked up, or my frustration with the Vikings getting beat by the Lions. Oh my goodness! But also,
I know, so bad.
Yeah, so bad. But yeah, everything at Secret Friends U there. We have a Discord. We just want more geeks to talk about in the world of nerd on our Discord channel. Want to game together, have all the fun. And yeah, just find us everywhere. You can find our podcasts on every service. I think we're where we are. And SecretFriendsUnite.com. We're always looking for contributors as well if anybody wants a place to be a nerd. So that is it for our show. Charlie, take us out.
Oh, my goodness, friends. Thank you, as always, for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring and to keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In a truck.
Gucci oh Gucci.
Bye.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow at Secret Friends U on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.